Plane from the Cannon Foothill, 545.
Morning, Tim.
Morning.
Okay. Anthony.
Morning.
Jaden.
I think I finally got past Limerick, just a little stumped at.
Yeah, I saw
Detail.
your post.
Yeah.
Okay, I saw your post. Yeah, okay. Good. You're stuck in a good place. So I'm happy. Hey, Jason, you look like an astronaut today with with the helmet off, because that thing you're wearing has the cool. Kiki and Hyungwon, are you there? Kate. Oh, true. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm just
Alright.
preparing my kids for school, so
No worries. Yeah,
all over the place.
I understand. Yeah, yeah. People have, getting ready in the morning for 8 a.m. is always a challenging task for many students, especially those who have, families and kids. And hey, Anthony, your camera is off again. It's last class too. We only saw the top half of your face. Yeah, that's great. That's great. Fantastic. Yeah. Also, since you joined late, I want to make sure that you're with us all the way. So you'll see that there are so many classmates you have. Many of them have progressed along, and they're willing to help, and I'm willing to help. There are tutors also. I want to make absolutely sure that you attend every class, and also catch up as soon as possible. Okay, we're all here to help you catch up. So look at the forums. If you've never posted in Reddit before, you can look at some of the other classmates posting there, and many of them will say, I'm new to Reddit. I've never tried before, and I'm very scared to start, but I see that it's actually pretty cool and easy, right? In fact, Reddit is actually one of the easier forums to get started in, and just set up a username according to the guidelines in the syllabus, and you're perfectly fine, right? We're all there to help you. Ling Chang, welcome to class, and feel free to switch on your cameras anytime you're ready. So yeah, I am very I tell you, I'm psyched to see the activity in the forums, and just this problem we were working on last class. I know Shadi has a conflict for 8 a.m. Thursdays only, but she will still be able to make it. She said in the email, for at least the first first 10 or 20 minutes of class. So I hope she shows up, but otherwise, people who have special permission like that, they can watch the video of the recording that we post online. But the important thing is to make time to watch the video, because once I find that many students who say, I'll watch the video and catch up later. The problem with that is that because a lecture happens at a fixed time, students are somehow impelled or compelled in a way, say, well, if I miss the 8 a.m., it's going to be hard. But however, if there's a video, natural human laziness kicks in. It's just perfectly natural, right? You'll say, I'm going to watch it before the next class, so that next class I'm not out of step. But before next class typically means 2 hours before the next class starts, right? And watching a video 2 hours before the next class is no fun at all. And because there will be concepts that you need to think more about before you say, I'm done with the concepts in this class, but you're going to say, well, I don't have time to think about it or try things out before the end of before the next class starts. And that really is no fun. And so please, everybody who misses class, let them know to watch the video as soon as possible. I'm posting these videos like 2 hours after, or actually, and 1 hour. How long does it take for Zoom to transcode my video? I think it takes about 20 minutes most of the time to transcode the video, and then it takes about 5 to 10 minutes to upload it to YouTube. So it's there almost instantaneously after class. So please do let everybody know to watch these videos, not only for the content that I'm sharing, but for the content that you guys are sharing. Okay, there's so many interesting things that happen in the video, certain ways of coding, and comments from people like you saying, well, maybe that's a bug, maybe that's a bug. In coding, the greatest value add in learning coding is not to learn. I can tell you this, okay? I think this is 100% right. You can disprove me later on if you're able to. When you're learning to code, many people make the mistake of thinking that learning to code is attending class and finding out how these things are done, okay? And maybe writing a few programs and getting past the exams. That will not set you up to be a programmer, okay? So if you do that, nobody will hire you. And you'll go to interviews and say, well, I have qualifications. I know C++. Look, I passed these courses, the advanced course, but why am I not getting a job? And the reason for that is because you got a piece of paper that says you passed it and you know it, but there's no evidence. And the only evidence that you can provide to these people is actually real knowledge of how programs work. And you can test this out. You can test this out to students, friends that you have in other colleges, in other sections of C++, who have technically passed advanced or intermediate courses in C++, right? They take intermediate because they'll still be in college, and maybe they got into an advanced course in C++ and they're doing an advanced course in C++, okay? Now, you can test it out and talk to them casually, and take one of the later quests in CS2A, right? So anything past 6, quest number 6, and tell them, I'm stuck here. Since you're doing an advanced class, can you get it to work for me, right? And you can look at if they're struggling. If they are struggling with a later blue quest and they're enrolled in an intermediate or advanced course in C++, then they actually didn't learn anything, right? Because out there, you go there and say, well, I know C++, and I say, well, build this product for me, right? A simple product. I say, I don't know how to build a product, okay? And you say, well, you say you're a carpenter, but you don't know how to build a table, right? And so that is the reaction you'll get. And most people will go and say, well, you know what, these kind of companies don't hire me, even though I have these qualifications. They hired someone else with the same qualifications. And that's a very highly one-sided view. And it's really because the person that didn't get the job did not make, and I'm saying, right, did not make use of the resources that were made available to that person, right? When you're in college, when you're in school, we provide you with every single way that you can leverage to your own success. Because at Foothill, any institution you go, there are lots of people who know how to do things, right? They know this and they've been there and done it. Now they want to basically share it with other people and say, well, you know what, I've done these things. Now you can also do these things, but do something better than what I did, so I can just buy it off the shelf at Walmart or something like that, right? So they say, I know how to do it, but I don't want to, right? There are lots of people like that. They say, I know, but I can teach you, and you can go on and do greater things than I have ever done. Right, and so those resources are available to you in every college you go to, and so the people that basically go through college without having picked up these skills, they've basically wasted the opportunity. They squandered it away, right? And the reason I say that is because maybe not so much in community colleges, but I know many children who go to more expensive colleges. UCs are more expensive than community colleges, and maybe they even go to elite colleges, right? Maybe $50,000 a year or a quarter or something like that, and they pay huge, hefty fees and for an education. But if the purpose of the education is not to suck up the knowledge that you're given at every nook and cranny, right? So basically you go in and say to this place and say, wow, there's all these goodies here. I'm going to just take it all because it's all available to you, right? You go in there and everybody's giving it to you and you just have to take it. But instead, if you focus on the wrong things there, because you say, well, I'm going here because I'm going to get a fantastic network. I get to interact with these people who are supposedly superior in society, or they have these incredible connections, or maybe I want to go there because I get to attend these, sorority. What do they call the male equivalent of the sororities? I forget. Right, these
Parties.
parties at night and things like that. Well, that's basically you're paying $200,000 or $50,000 or whatever it is to go on basically to go on a cruise, right? You're going there to have a good time, right? But for the same amount of money that you're spending, like $50,000 or $200,000, I can guarantee that you can get a 500,000 times multiplied better time in your life. You can enjoy your life, mind-blowing adventures for the same amount of money if you spent that money for pure entertainment. So it's basically inefficient use of your money or your parents' money or taxpayer money. If you go to college and say, well, now I'm going to college, I've got my freedom, now I can party as much as I want, and my free time I can go do these things. Well, it's your loss, really. Right. So what do you do when you go to? Most people like to go when you go shopping, and you see many things on the shelves. Many times, typically what we do is look for things that have highest value, meaning low price, but actually does the job really well. Yes, that's Costco, for example. Right? That is how the Trader Joe's and Costco, they basically shot to the top based on this observation that people ultimately they're not going for these fancy Gucci's and Giorgio Armani shit like that. They are going for value. At the end of the day, that's what except for the top few people for whom the name matters and they want to go around slinging a Louis Vuitton bag on their back so other people can say. Most other people, that's the superficial aspect. They'll cut right through it and say, well, at the end of the day, is that bag going to hold my groceries, right? So because that's what I want to do. So they're all going for value. And so once people narrow it down to say, well, value is what people are after, I'm going to provide value. They'll say, well, there's a bunch of products here. You go to Walmart, okay? And you say, here's a product by this brand name. And right next to it, here's another product that is not a brand name. But however, it is like 1/5 the price, okay? Because we don't pay for advertising and on big billboards and expensive models. We just say this is it. That's the pure value. Distill the value out of it. Now, what do we do most of the time, right? If it's exactly the same product, because with chemicals and ingredients, we can look at the ingredients list, right? For Tylenol, for example, both pills contain acetaminophen or whatever it's called, the Tylenol thing, right? They're exactly the same, but this one is like half the price, and you can tell exactly the same. You would buy the cheaper one, obviously, right? Because there's no added value to the other one, and that's exactly the way in which you should pursue anything in life, not just tangible objects, but even education, which is you're paying for education. But it is a tangible, it is an intangible. So you go to a college, and in a college, you have many different things that are being offered to you. Yes, many different things. We have, art, ceramics, history, anthropology, computer science, math, many different things. Okay. Now, each of those things will have a certain value to you, but they all cost the same. All of these courses cost the same. So you have to say, well, which one should I buy in order to get the maximum value in my life, so that I'm not going to be at Foothill for the rest of my life, right? You guys are young, and you're not going to be hanging around college and, listening to me for the remainder of your life. So at some point, you're going to say, I'm going to go out there and make my own name, right? I'm going to go and, conquer the world or something like that. So if you're going to do that, you're not going to say, I'm going to do things that is going to make my 2 years in here very productive, very, very happy for myself, right? That is the wrong approach to take. That is very short-sighted. And people who say, I'm going here so that I can have a great 4 years of my life, they're stupid, right? Because they're going to just say, have a good 4 years, and after that, they're screwed. But the other people who say, well, you know what, I want to have a good time, not in these 4 years, but in the 40 years after that, right? Or 400 years after that, because you guys are going to live very, very long, right? So you're going to say, well, what I'll do, because I know that I'm going to live for 400 years, with the advances in genetic technology and all that, I'm going to say, right? I'm going to say, I'm going to say, well, I'm going to invest, right? Because I'm going to live that long, I'm going to invest 4 years of my life, to make sure that those 400 years I can live, I can do whatever the hell I want, Okay, so that means you're essentially saying, I'm going to take a small sacrifice now so that I can get a big return later on. And it doesn't cost most people anything, right? Because the fees is already paid. Your parents and taxpayers and guardians, everybody, you know, they've paid the fees and you're here. So here, all you need to do is basically pick out the classes when you go to college that basically speak to your own interest, because when you do something that is intrinsically interesting to you, you will actually put forth your best effort. Why? Because you're not doing it for someone else. Okay, anytime you do something for yourself, right, for your own self, that is a true pursuit, because that is the truth, because you're doing it for your own self. You're not doing it for your parents, you're not doing it for me, you're not doing it for other people, and you don't care what the rest of the world says, because all you want to do is just self-improvement. And because, you know, I want to get better, you're doing it for yourself. And that way you will actually just go right to the top. Because there's nobody to stop you. And so that's what I mean is you should absolutely take the opportunity here in college to suck up the knowledge that is laid out in front of you, and take it. And you guys are all doing this because I'm actually preaching to the core, but strictly speaking, I'm just speaking to the people that are hopefully going to watch the video later on and not in class. Okay, so you guys have taken the initiative, and in fact, all the ones who are watching the video who are not regulars, they should take a good look at the faces on screen today, because these are the people they can go to. Right? They can go and say, hey, Tim or Anthony, well, you know what, in this lecture, they talked about this thing. I'm not 100% sure. Can you explain it to me? Right? And then they can, in the background, it doesn't have to happen on Reddit. Although if it's on Reddit, I can see it and you get points and everything, but it doesn't have to be on Reddit. Okay. So other people can reach out to you out of band, through Discord or Reddit, or Discord or Slack or something like that, or even a phone call, and you can chat and you can pick out these little problems and solve them, and that will actually be the best way I think to approach any learning task. So I'm happy. It's shaping up very nicely. This class is shaping up very nicely. So thank you all for that. I am very happy to see you every Tuesday and Thursday. So today, here's what I'm thinking. What time is it now? 8:18. Yeah, we can start. Today, when someone picks up the screen, what we'll do is, we'll leave the old problem alone, which is the projectile motion, unless you guys want to talk about it, but I don't want to. Michael's, if you look at the Reddit posts, Michael identified the exact problem, which was basically when you increment the y, even if it's fractional, you still advance by one step down, which is not supposed to be done, right? Because we need to accumulate that and only jump when it's more than one unit. And so when he did that, you got the entire parabola, right? Now, Chongwen's approach is also, accounting for the arithmetic error, if that error was fixed, that would also produce a parabola, and that would also, but that parabola won't be a continuous, like, if you look at Mike's picture, it had a dot on every line, right? But Chongwen's parabola will also have it'll also have a parabola shape if once the algorithm is fixed, right? The algorithm has, the last one she posted still has some errors, but minor errors you can fix, but it will be a disconnected parabola, meaning that you'll have all the dots in the right places, but there will be gaps between. And in fact, that was the picture I had in my mind, right? When we started coding yesterday, if you remember, I said, we're going to put a dot, and then the next dot, you're going to skip a lot of lines and put the next dot there, where it would have been if it had been continuous, where it would have been. Yes, that's the picture I had in my mind, and obviously that's what Chongwen was also trying to replicate, and maybe that's the reason why she ran into these bugs, right? Michael actually took a slightly different approach, based on the errors we were seeing, so he got this continuous line. So they're both valid and they're both very nice, and I'm very glad that both of those bubbled out of our discussion and our coding exercises. So I would highly encourage all of you to follow that code, right? Either of those, right? And fix things if necessary, and go ahead and try your own versions. But we'll leave it there because today, my goal was to introduce branching statements, if then branching statements. And in order to, and I was thinking that, well, I was thinking yesterday, well, on Tuesday, well, I wanted to do two problems on Thursday. Tuesday, if you remember, I said, let's do the parabola, and then we'll have time to do the other one too, which is, flipping a sentence, right? You got a sentence and you want to flip the characters, reverse the sentence. So we wanted to do that. And I said, very boldly and ambitiously, I said, we'll do both. We never got to do both. But I was thinking that, wow, you know what, that it's good that we didn't do both, because had we started doing that other one, we would have run into a place where we were forced to use branching statements, an if statement, and we hadn't covered it. So whereas the projectile one was all completely loops, right? Only loops and standard statements, no branching statements in projectile. And Michael's version has some branching statements, but strictly speaking, you don't need to have branching statements, right? So you can also do it like Chongwen did, and you'll actually get the a nice parabola shape. So today what I'm thinking is that we will take that problem, which is to take a string and flip it around, because I was thinking that there's actually scope to do the same problem in multiple ways, and we'll do all of those today. And I actually Googled around, because I think I mentioned that this is a potential interview problem that you could get asked in a job interview. So I Googled around and I found, I think it was Glassdoor. I found that this is actually a real interview problem. So on Glassdoor, potential, interviewees are talking about, I got this problem at an interview, and Google or whatever it is, they said, this is a problem I had. And so on. Maybe it was an icebreaker problem, because it's a relatively simple problem, but you'll be surprised, right? When you actually start interviewing other people, and that's why that's why the recruiting team is super duper important, okay? Because programmers, their time is always at a premium. Once you become a professional programmer, your time, you'll start valuing your time to code, right? More than many other activities. And that's why I know, rockstar programmers that I've worked with in the past, any management duties that come their way, they'll basically say, don't even look at me, right? Because they don't want to be their focus to be taken away from creative work they're doing into routine management, shuffling things around and making things, making sure things are well oiled and greased and things work. That's a different kind of skill, right? And just requires shepherding things around and employing standard calculi to get the car moving. So many of the top computer scientists and programmers I've seen don't want to do these things, and they'll basically. Where I was going with that was that when it comes time to interview other people to bring into your team, programmers will typically say, well, screen these guys first, because I don't want to spend a lot of time just with candidates only to figure out they don't know the basics, right? So in many companies, they have a recruiting team who will take care of the standard questions, to the screening questions, to make sure you're already up to snuff before you come and waste a programmer's time when they give you some more sophisticated problems. So depending on the company's needs and their standards, you may see this kind of problem appear either at the screening stage, phone screen, when you have a phone call from not the hiring manager, but the recruiter, right? Because the recruiter basically deals with 500 resumes and says, well, these 500 resumes I can't pass on to the programming team to interview because they won't have time. I have to select 5 of the 500 resumes, and those are the guys I want to pass on to the programmers, because they can set up interviews for these people and say, oh, he or she is a good candidate to bring into our team, right? So depending on where the line is drawn, this kind of problem is likely to be faced. And I think this problem has been faced, according to Glassdoor, in an actual interview, which means pass the recruiting screen. So it may actually be a first question that a programmer interview throws at you. So as an icebreaker, right? So we can actually look at that. And yeah, and I think it's a good problem, because you can and the best interview questions are always right, and you'll find out. Right, the best interview, and once you find out, these are you have to put them in your inventory, because when you do have to make conduct an interview, you can't just you can pull problems out of thin air, because you can, but it won't. There, many problems have interesting solutions, but will give you little insight into the mind of the candidate working through the problem, right? So the trick is to identify problems that have scope for you to peer into the head of the person solving the problem. Even though it may be a simple problem, right? It has to be designed or structured in such a way that some insight can be shared. And so such problems are difficult to find, right? Because actual problems, lots of them. The problems like that let you peer into another person's head. Those are and this is one of those problems. And I think we've talked about a few other problems in previous lectures on YouTube. But the reason it's important is because good interview problems always start out with a very, very simple task, okay? And the reason for that is that as soon as the candidate comes into the room, you got to give them something easy to reassure them and say, well, we're not here to eat you, right? So here's a problem. They won't tell you it's a simple problem, right? So solve it. And the first problem you get is usually designed to put you at ease. So you got to get right through it. But then the problem is, that's why these problems are rare. That problem will have scope for taking it to the next level. So they'll say, okay, well, you've done it. Now let's take that problem and introduce a constraint and say, well, I want to solve it, but there is this constraint. You cannot do what you just did, right? What you did gave us a solution. That's great. But let's assume that you didn't have that luxury. Now can you solve it? Okay. And there will be 4 or 5 different luxuries or freedoms that will be incrementally taken away from you. I'm talking about the characteristics of good interview problems. If you do come across problems like this, those are problems you should remember. Write it down in a Google Doc or something, and keep it, because at some point you're going to have to ask someone else to solve a problem, and rather than go on the internet and find problems, these are the problems that you should ask them, so that you can actually grade candidates by saying, well, this candidate progressed from the beginning all the way up to this step 3, right? When the 4th freedom was removed, that person couldn't follow through, and they struggled. Okay, whereas this candidate just breezed all the way through. So now you have some kind of a quantitative indicator where you can say, well, this is the reason why we want to hire this person, right? Rather than based on lame ass reasons, like because once people, if you don't have these reasons, and I've found, and you go to the post-interview conference where everybody has to share their input. If people don't have objective reasons to say, well, this is the reason why I prefer that candidate, this is the reason, right? In the hiring committee, then you find that most people would have made up their minds already based on other factors irrelevant to the job. And they would have made up their minds. And the problem there is that once someone has made up their mind already, it's impossible, right? Close to impossible for observational technical data to change their minds. And that is why, when I've conducted interviews in the past, I would basically say, no, all of you guys, you don't get to see the resumes of the people we're hiring. The resumes have already been screened, right? You won't know who these candidates are. You just have to interact with them and, and grade them, right? So that way you get the best objective evaluation of these candidates from your potential colleagues of the candidate, because they would be able to interact with them really as a co-worker and say, well, these are the points. And so this problem today, I think, will have scope for such a development. So I think it's also good. And the things that I think we'll leverage in solving today's problem are we'll do loops. So hopefully you're all comfortable with loops, right? Are you comfortable? Are you guys comfortable with the looping structure? We'll only do 4 loops, okay? The 4 loops. And so we'll do loops, and inside the loop, we'll have, I think, branching statements, okay? So by today, you would have 2 of the most powerful control structures, okay? These are control structures, meaning control structures are your basic tools. Basic tools. When a car mechanic, they got to learn some basic tools first, like a wrench or a hammer or something like that. Basic tools. These are the 2 very basic tools. And once you're solid with these 2 basic tools, next week we'll start looking at arrays. Okay, arrays, which is not really a tool, but it is a way of arranging tools so that it's a way of arranging stuff that you need to work on so that it will be easy for you to do these things, right? So if you think about it like analogously or metaphor, like a surgeon, right? When a surgeon and they have to use a number of different I don't know, what do you call them, right? Instruments. Let's say a number of different things. And in the middle of a heart surgery or something like that, they don't have the time to go and look, oh, hang on, just keep the, keep your finger on the heart. I need to go and get this thing. Okay, so they don't do that, right? So in fact, if you look at the videos, most of them are, unthinkingly reaching to their right and grabbing something from some position, and they know that it's there because some prep, assistant had already placed all the tools in the right places. Yes, so they're in fact, when they're performing surgery, they're not even thinking about the tools, right? Their fingers and the tools are the same. So they're basically looking at whatever they're doing and grabbing things, doing this, putting it back, grabbing something else, putting it back, and so on. So that level only comes from practice, and also with specific arrangements, conventions that have been agreed upon and practiced repeatedly. A particular arrangement that makes it easy for you to complete your job. So next week, on Tuesday, we'll look at an array, which is one of the most simple arrangements, the simplest possible arrangement of data that will greatly improve the efficiency in which a task can be completed using the tools you already have. All right. So the tools that we already have are looping, which means you can do the same set of instructions many times. That is the first very important tool. Yeah. And because, suturing, same suture many times. Right. And then the branching statement. Right, branching statement, those are two really critical tools that combined with the basic arrangement of the data, right, which you basically get to completely familiarize yourself with, because that is the arrangement that, no matter how expert we get in computer science, that is going to be central. Everyone, right, from the simplest of algorithms to the most sophisticated algorithms, the array or a vector data structure is the most common, right? You cannot do away with it in computer science. So an array is basically an array of data items. We'll look at that next class. Once you've done branching and looping and arrays, right? That basically sets the stage for you to, you don't theoretically, all right? In fact, even practically, I think even practically, right? Because you don't need anything else to learn all of computer science, okay? Really, that's the truth, right? Because even the advanced data structures that you learn later on, they're just going to be built on top of this, right? Which means that you don't need to learn them. If you didn't have knowledge about those things, you can build them yourself with what you already have. So this is, and that's all you need to learn. So these are the basic constructs with the array, which we'll look at next class. We'll start solving some really interesting problems, right? Really interesting problems. Maybe, that could be out there in the real world. And then after that, we'll talk about functions. And then after the midterm, we'll talk about classes and searching techniques, right? By the end of this class, by course, CS2A, you will be very, very happy with yourself, okay? Because you would have learned so many things that basically open up a new world for you. Because, many of us, we get bored with this world after a while. Yeah, same old thing, been there, done that, and so on. And so you want to say, oh, what is it? What can I do now that will open up a whole new adventure for me, right? Another place where I can go and find great things. And so these tools now give you the opportunity to get into that world. So we'll get there. And I'm pretty sure, I'm super duper confident that at least the ones who are in class today, they're going to stick around until the very end of this class, of course, and you're all going to be doing very well. I can tell. Okay, so so I'm happy, and just please pass this message on. I keep saying this every quarter. Please pass this message on to all of your classmates who are not able to make it today. Well, if they're not able to make it because of conflict or doing the async section, that's fine. But those who are enrolled in the sync section and not really making posts in the Reddit, they have to really get their act together. Please pass this message on. Okay, so today, who would like to take the screen and code? Again, it's going to be the same as before. No, not Jaden, and well, Shadi is not here today. And I think Michael or Juan went first. Hey, Hasanta, you want to go?
Yes, please.
Yeah, thank you. That's fantastic. Okay, now, so you see, I remember Juan, Jaden, and Shadi have already had a chance so far. You'll all get a chance again, okay? Jaden, you'll get a chance later. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I just get excited about these kinds of
Yeah,
things.
yeah. No, it's great. It's great. You will get a chance. And also, it shouldn't just be in class, okay? You guys should just feel free to arrange a study session, like 4 or 5 people. Pick a time, and use Reddit or Slack or Discord. Pick a time when you say, 4 or 5 people arranging a study group. This actually happened in CS2C last quarter, maybe, or CS2B. You can do the same thing and say, let's all get together and we'll code, right? And then in that group, you could say, let's solve this problem. And one person calls out the code and the other one types it. Right, so 2 people are already involved in the project, and you can rotate, and that's the only way you can get practice. Okay, you will never be able to practice computer science without actually doing it many times, not just once, because it's like a math proof. And I've said this again, right? And in my case, it never worked. When I was a student learning math, for example, I look at these proofs and before the exam, and I read the text, and I say, yes, of course, this proof makes total sense. I know how to do it, okay? Because you read it and you can understand every step. But in the exam, I get the same question, for example, right? Same proof, and I'm doing it on paper by myself. I get stuck, right? So it was a bitter lesson I learned during the early classes of math in my life, okay? And it's the same in computer science or anything else. It's not enough to do it even just once also, right? So in math, you do one proof, you read it, you're screwed, okay? You read it and you do it once, you're okay, because you have a chance of remembering it. But you do it and do it a couple of times, or do similar problems, right? That's why in math, if you go to a math book and you go to the end, you see many problems, 50 or 60 problems. Math books are actually loaded with problems, isn't it? Right? At the end of every chapter, you have like 60 or 100 problems. And why? Many of these problems are similar to each other. It doesn't mean you have to cherry pick these problems and do them. They actually mean for you to do every single problem. And the reason for that is because only if you do all of these problems, you will get familiar with the techniques that are being used in different contexts, right? So in this case, you're going to use, proof by contradiction here, right? In this case, you're going to be using proof by contradiction somewhere else, right? How would you know? Because this thing is a so this tool can be repurposed. And you only know that by doing different things and saying, well, you know what, this is not only a wrench, I can use it to, prop up my something, right? So you get to learn all these things by doing repeated tasks that are maybe slightly different. And that way it get ingrained in your memory. Programming also, even if it's a similar program, do it again and again, because these skills will basically ingrain themselves into your memory, so that next time you use them, you're not thinking about the tool itself. You're basically, the tool has become part of your like the samurai say that the sword is part of their hand now, right? So the tool has to be part of your mind. So you're not thinking about basic words in English or the Chinese or some language, but you're thinking about the whole sentence and thought to be conveyed. And then your mouth just becomes a mouthpiece, right? It's basically just like see out or see in, right? Your mouth is basically mouth in or mouth out. So it's you open your mouth and whatever's in your head will flow out like that. You're not paying conscious attention to how you're structuring your sentences and things like that. And that essentially is a place where we want to go with C++. Okay, so today, Thursday, April 20th, thank you very much. Was it Hasanta? Where's Hasanta? I can't see. Oh, hang on, maybe my screen. Okay, one sec, I'll get more of you on screen. Okay, I'll get that. Now I need to change glasses. Okay, just give me one sec. That's much better. Okay. Hey, Hasanta, let's do this right away in the beginning. After you say contains the main function, I believe that the word main, the second sentence, program execution begins, that's past 80 columns. So put your cursor before the P and hit enter. Yeah, there you go. Well, how come it automatically put the comment there? Are you using an IDE? Oh, it's VS Code. Right. Okay. Yeah. All right. So I was thinking, last class someone else was coding. Shadi was coding. I don't know. Was it VS Code? I don't know. When she broke a line, it didn't put the comment characters there automatically. So in this case, it did it. So that's kind of cool. All right. Now the reason I said we do that is because now we have this mental picture of where approximately 80 columns is, so that later on down in the program, when you have to make a comment, you will automatically know. All right, so now I can break the line and go to the next line. Okay, so that's the reason we did that right in the beginning. Okay, all right, so let's put a comment there saying what we'll do there. Now this program, today we will experiment with what is it, branching statements. with branching statements and write a program that can flip a sentence. Right, flip a line. It doesn't even have to be a sentence, right? Flip a line of characters horizontally. Right? You can only fix them. Actually, that's not true. That's not true. There is a program that can also flip your characters vertically. If you go to Google and type upside down text website, okay, upside down text website, it'll actually give you a program, a website basically, where you can go and type in something, and the output will be the same thing you type except vertically flipped. How is it possible? And it only uses standard ASCII characters. It's because every ASCII character, most ASCII characters anyway, have another character that looks like the same character except it's upside down. Okay, maybe it's in some other language or Unicode, but they actually figure it out, and they do this mapping for you. I remember because many years ago, when my son was learning programming, we actually sat down and implemented that. And then I went online and say, after we did that, we saw, wow, this is like a ton of websites already doing this. This is pretty cool. So we want to do it horizontally, which is actually easier because it's not looking up, what should F be upside down, what is, K, L, and so on. So this is going to be easier because all we need to do is take that character and this character, and the last character should be the first character, and so on, right? We just need to do that, and then we'll do it in many different ways. Okay, all right. Now let's do our main as usual, and with to-dos. And so what we want to do is print a prompt that says enter a line of English text, right? So we want to put a prompt, put a prompt there to do. Prompt the user to enter a line of English text and read it in. Yeah, English text and read it in. Yeah, okay. All right. Now, and the to-do should be prompt a user because you want to prompt it and then read it in. So prompt the user to. Prompt the user to. Okay, right? And E is lowercase e now. So, all right. So that's the first to do. And I'm pretty sure you can do it, right? So we're not going to belabor that. And again, I'll give you 5 minutes for you guys to flesh it out. Maybe after 10 or 15 minutes, I'll give you 5 minutes. And now the second to-do item is going to be pass this, blank line there because you're going to be doing some code there, right? So yeah, thank you. And you say pass this line of text to our function, which should return the flipped version, right? Which should return the flipped version. Next line, yeah. So you can only line it up with the first line in the comment. Anytime you have text that's overflowing, you can just go break on to the next line. Yeah. Return the flipped version, and then print it out, and print it out, and then print it out. Okay, so those are the two tasks that we will have to do. And so now that's all. I don't know if you need to do anything more, anything else in main. So let's put the blank lines and return 0 at the end, and that's return 0. There you go. Okay, now let's go up to hash include IO stream. Semicolon, Hasanta. Great. No, and you don't need a blank line after return, right? The return's the very last thing. And blank backspace there, and then you'll clean it up. Great. Now let's use namespace after the IO stream. Now everything we're doing, please let me know. Okay, if you guys are not clear, please let me know so that we can make sure that you're all in the same space. So you have to say using. No. So back to the beginning of the line and say using space namespace. And then here you just need to say standard std semicolon. Okay, now no semicolon, no semicolon, std instead of IOStream. You can say std semicolon, semicolon, and then nothing else on that line. Yeah, right. Now put a blank line before that too, to separate it from the includes. Okay. Now after that line, after line 8, let's hit enter. One more. and we will write a function that what shall we call it? We'll say flip text, right? H flip, right? So let's say H flip, so that we want to do H flip, or you want to say horizontally flip, right? Horizontally flip text, right? Let's just say horizontally underscore flip underscore text. Yeah. And then there's an N before L, 2 L's. You got to, yeah, get rid of that. Yeah. And then this function is going to take a parameter, which is the text to flip, right? It needs to be given a piece of text to flip. So it's going to take a parameter, and it's going to be a string parameter. So open, yeah, and in there you're going to say string s. We'll call it s, right? Now this is going to return another string. So you give it a string of characters. It's going to flip it and return that string to you. So this function has a return value. It's not void. It's going to return string to you, right? So let's put the type of the return value in front of the function name, right? Go to the beginning of line 10 and just say string right there, right? Beginning of line 10 and say string. Okay. Now let's put a comment on top of, by the way, no semicolon at the end. Instead, you have a space, put a space there, and then a curly brace, curly brace. And enter. Okay, now in here is where we're going to fill in the body of this function. So above the function on line 9, hit enter, right? And then let's put a definition of what this function is going to do, so that people who are going to look at this code can basically look at the comment and say, well, this is what this function is going to do. And then we can understand the function in the context of that comment. So let's say this function will flip a string horizontally and return the flipped string. Okay, that's all. Now we're going to take this. Now we're going to implement a very, very simple, almost trivial version of this function, and then and we need to cover that really quickly. Well, not really quickly. Once we're done with that, I want to take that successively through multiple steps. Okay, so just stay with me all along, and it'll be really cool. All right. So in this function, we have the input string s, and we want to manufacture a brand new string that we're going to return. Okay. So let's say that brand new string that we're going to return to the user, declare it right there. Right. Say string space result. Right. So just say res. You know, many people just say res for result. Right? Or you can just say R. You know, it's going to be easier. Just say R. Okay, R, and we want to say this string. No, you got a spelling error for string. So you're going to fix that. Yeah, R. Put a semicolon there. This string we want to. Well, actually, it's not going to be a semicolon. Okay, but I'll so this string needs to be how big? How big does a string need to be? This string that we're going to return to the user, can someone tell me how big that string needs to be? How many characters wide?
Same as the input character, right?
Yes, thank you, Hasanta. Okay, so this string that we're going to return has got to be the exact same length as the string that we're given, right? Because when we flip the characters around, we're not changing the length. It's got to be the exact same length. Yes or no? Right, I want everybody to agree on this, right? If you're not in agreement, please let me know, because this is, we need to be on the same page with this fundamental fact. Okay, so we want this string to be the exact same size as the input string. So how do we tell? How do we tell the compiler, give me a string, but it's not an empty string? I want it to be the exact size as that string. So how do we tell that? So one way is to initialize it with the input string and say, but that's not what we're going to do, because that's inefficient and a bad way to do it. We can say, I want a string R, and that string initially has the same value as the input string. So automatically, when you say it's the same value, it's got to have the same length also. And then we can say, well, now I've got the string. Now I can go and shuffle this around and mess with it and return that. So, but that is inefficient, because, when you say, give me a string and you're going to initialize it, it's going to copy, right? Because, you're going to get a string, and you got to resize it and copy all the characters. But, what's the point of copying if you're going to change the order anyway? So that operation is wasted, isn't it? So even though from the outside, someone who's observing the program can't see that, cannot see that, and in fact, it is inefficient and bad. It's a bad way to do this, but nobody will know. And in fact, nobody will know. It's doubly bad because not only will nobody not know, it does not even impact the running time of your program. It does not make it less fast, or it's not going to do serious damage to your program if you had this minor inefficiency in the code, right? So what I just described is a minor inefficiency, and there are lots of programs. I've seen so many programs with many minor inefficiencies. Okay, and the problem is programs with minor inefficiencies will cut the mustard, and it'll be out there. People will be using it. They'll never know. There's lots and lots of little inefficient blocks in there because they're. But the truth is that this program could have been done, engineered, and designed much better if not for those minor inefficiencies. And how do you know? Unfortunately, the best way to prevent these minor inefficiencies is to only hire A quality programmers. Okay, so to hire programmers who actually have a solid intuition about computer science. They need to know how computers work and what happens inside. So if someone knows how these things work, even the little programs they write, it will not have these minor inefficiencies. That's like building something that looks good on the outside, but inside it's all shitty, right? And nobody will know. They'll just buy it. But good programmers won't do that, okay? Because they're not writing this just so to get a buck, right? They're not building something so they can sell it and enjoy on a private yacht because they managed to fool people into buying bullshit, right? So no, they say, well, I don't. What is it to me? Well, I already have all the money I want, and so I'm making these things. I don't need more money. Why do I need to share? Now I need to just whatever I sell needs to have this high quality inside and outside. Even though people can't see it, I need it to be good on the inside too, right? And so, but people who are programming for a living, right? They don't have a choice. They'll have to sometimes churn out substandard products, right? So that's why it actually helps to go after only the top programmers because they have this intuition and say, well, even though it's going to work, I'll also make sure that it works nicely inside where nobody can see. And so, so the bad way to initialize R to have the same size as S is to basically initialize it with that is S. We're not going to do that. However, what we're going to do is go to Google and hey, Hasanta, can you open a private tab in Chrome? So what we're going to do is look for the constructor, and this is something you're going to do forever and ever as long as you're a C++ programmer. In fact, you'll be doing this more, and the more experience you get in C++, the more lookups you're going to do, right? In fact, when I was a grad student, I switched PhD topics, right? First, I was doing a PhD in the area of human-computer interaction, where we wanted to figure out, how novices use computers, how experts use computers, because they're two very different, and say so novices are completely thrown off track. If you force them to use computers like experts, they're never going to learn computer science, right? Whereas if you take the novice way and tell experts that's how you can use computer, they're going to say, oh, it's taking too much time for me. I don't want to use it that way. Okay, so how do novices progress all the way? So this is different. How do we find out how novices use computers? So what are the two different ways? And we did some experiments, strangely enough, by watching experts and novices play chess and ask them to say, well, as you're playing the game, think aloud about what your moves are so that we can record them and then analyze them later, right? So we did this interesting experiments and found some very interesting things about how novices and experts approach certain problems, which actually has bearings. I don't want to go into the detail and waste time here. And I actually don't know what I was. Yeah. So what happens is that experts tend to forget a lot of stuff they learned as a novice. And that's very, very important. Okay, and I think this is probably related to child development because when a child is born, I think this is what the data says. I'm not 100% sure. Maybe you need to verify this. It has a whole lot more neurons in its brain than adults. Okay, it has so much more neurons, many neurons in their head, and the way that learning happens is that many of these neurons are pruned. Right, and connections are made, but they have fewer neurons, but more connections between them. And so what happens, our theory anyway, right at the, before I dropped the topic, was that what happens in the process of going from a novice to an expert is actually the process of careful, measured forgetting. Okay, so you turn into an expert by consciously, well, not consciously, subconsciously maybe, by selectively forgetting things that you have learned as a novice. So here you may be learning many things that make your life easier. But when you get better and better, you're going to say, no, which ones of those can I forget, right? In fact, I'm not even saying forget the subconscious, make it into muscle memory, not that kind of forgetting, right? I'm actually talking about actually forgetting it, because later on when you want to do something, you say, well, I don't know how to do that, I'm going to look it up, right? So what we find is that experts have forgotten how to do a lot of things, but they know where to go to find out how to do it very quickly. So they know, right? So this is, I need to do this and I need to do these 5 steps. Let me Google and find out how to do the first step, second step, third step. So, but that for sequence of steps, those 5 steps, that can only come from an expert. But how to do each of those individual steps, they look up, right? Because that's all been, part of a calculus. It's all standard. Everybody does that. So there's, 10 different fixed ways of doing it. You just pick one, right? And that's how an expert approaches a problem. And that's the way you will see, right? So now, because I'm telling it to you now, you can now pay conscious attention to your own development as you become experts. Because before you know it, you'll be an expert, right? And that happens to many people, right? So many beginners in CS2A, they're beginning, and they say, I'm never going to learn all that. But the reality, and sometimes a sad reality too, because you need to remember in order to become a good teacher, right? If you remember these things, when you are an expert, you will be a good teacher and a good manager, because good managers, the best managers, are also good teachers, right? Because they want to teach people to eventually take over their job so that they can go and chill. Okay, so good managers will also try and teach their underlings to develop them to become, solid designers and architects themselves. So so what they do is you tend to forget all these things. And I said, this is the big task. That's what we want to do. And that sequence of operations, you would not know unless you know that these things can be done. But I know that can be done in 15 different ways now, because I've been a novice long enough. I know this can be done. The step number 1 can be done in 15 different ways. I don't know every one of those 15 ways, obviously, but I know it can be done. And so this big project needs all these steps. And now which one of the 15 different ways will best fit that project? Okay, so you'll basically just go and pick and choose, right? The different steps, and you get your completed product. Does that make sense? And so what happens is that when you are an expert, you'll actually forget many of these things, and you'll go and look up. So the internet is this fantastic resource at our disposal. Because I remember when I was coding, wasn't there, right? I remember painstakingly, in fact, when I was very early on, back in the day, I was coding something using Microsoft Visual Studio. No, not Visual Studio. It was actually, there wasn't even an IDE. It was a Microsoft compiler. You have to write a program and then call the compiler on the command line to compile it and things like that. I had to do that, and there were places where I had to write code in assembler to link into my C program. It wasn't C++, it was a C program. And I spent so much time and energy and effort trying to even locate the resources that will teach me that, right? So, and I had to go to libraries, and I had to beg people who already knew and say, hey, how do you do this? And if something doesn't work, I have to go and find them. They're located somewhere else, not even in the same building, different company even, and it's very, very hard. But now you guys have everything in front of you, just laid out, and you can just go to Google, and that's what we're going to do now. So Hasanta, if you can go to a private tab in Chrome, just search for C++ string interface. Okay, that's what you're going to be doing all your life, right? So it's a C++ interface to something. Okay, so just Google for that. Also share that screen so that everybody can see what we're doing. Share the Google, the private tab with Chrome or your browser essentially. Can you do that? Can you swap the sharing? Hasanta? Yeah. Oh, there you go. Right. Yeah, the first one is usually good. That C++.com, I think. Oh, it is different. The first hit used to be cppreference.com. Maybe this is the same. Yeah, it looks exactly the same. All right. So let's see, look at the constructor. Further down, I want to look at something called the constructor. And all right. So all right, constructor, constructor. Yeah, click on that. And let's see if it has a version that takes a size. Okay, there we go. String size tn char c. All right. So thank you so much for increasing the font size. Okay. So what it says is that size string str. So I'll explain what I'm looking for. Okay, very quickly. Okay. Here's what I was thinking. It does have what we want. We want to tell the string class. The string class has already been built for us, and it's out there in the library. We just need to pick it out and start using it. And I was looking for a particular call to the string constructor. This is the string class gives you many different ways in which you can get your string, right? So those are all the way, 7 ways. 7 ways in which you can tell the compiler, I want a brand new string. Okay, and each of those 7 ways will become very straightforward, and you'll know what you're looking for. I was looking for a way in which I can tell the constructor, give me a string which is this size. Okay, I want a string that is that long. However, I'm not particular about what needs to go in there. I just need a string that's that big because I'm going to put the values in there, right? That's what I was looking for. However, in the list of string constructors that I see, that's absent. Okay, because that gives me a whole bunch of ways, but the one I'm looking for is not there, but the second best is there. The second best is basically give me a string that is n characters wide, okay? And also each of those characters is this fixed character. So you can basically say, give me a string that's this big, and each character needs to be a space. It is a string of spaces, string of A's, string of B's, right? So you can do that. And the reason I say it's inefficient is because it still needs to give you a string object that's initialized with predetermined values, and that is costly, right? Not like costly, but still it's wasted cost, because you're asking the compiler to do something for you, or the CPU to do something for you, but you don't care because you're going to override it anyway. Does that make sense? Okay, so that is the reason why the only choice that's available to us for the string class is still less efficient than what I want to do or what we want to do. Yes, so we're still going to use that. So let's say we pick number 6. Okay, so hang on just one second. I want to read the names they have on the site. Default copy substring C string sequence fill range. Okay, yeah, I think we just want to have fill. All right, the number, yeah, that one. So okay, so let's go to our code again, and we'll say that yeah, can you go to the code? Right, so here instead of R semicolon, we say R open parentheses, and if we remember from that page, it says for that, so it takes 2 parameters. The first is the length of the string that we desire, and the length should be no, not size tn, because we know what the length is. Yes. Okay. Oh, geez. Okay. Good. We're back. Okay. So we know what the length is. Yes. We know the length, don't we? Ah, geez. Okay. Right. So we know what the length is, don't we? What should be the length? Hasanta just said what the length was supposed to be. Right. What is the length?
The length
it is the length of the input string.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you, Jaden. Okay. So and you can get the length of the input string.
That wasn't me.
Oh, you didn't say that? I
Yeah.
thought you said length.
I was
Oh,
about
someone
to,
said
but
length.
someone else said it.
Okay. All right. So we need to get the length of S, and that should be the length of R. And how can we get the length of S? There is a way in which you can get the length of the S by actually calling a method on that object. So you're going to say S dot L, and you should get an autocomplete right there. L S dot L length. Do you see? Oh, yeah, there you go. It actually selected. Right now, unlike in JavaScript and other languages, it's actually a method call. So you need open parentheses close, open close right there immediately after length. Right. And now it takes 2 parameters, doesn't it? 2 parameters. So let's give it the second parameter, and we really don't care what goes in there. So just say 0. Okay, comma 0, comma 0. All right. So now what that means, that line means, give me a string that is as long as S dot length, and pre-fill it with the character 0. Right. Unfortunately, we're saying pre-fill it because we don't care what's in there. We just need that allocated but we're going to, because the only thing that's available to us is I'll give it to you, but I have to pre-fill it. Okay, we say pre-fill it with 0. We don't care. You could put any character in there, but I'm putting 0 in there because, you know, it's probably one of the most intuitive things that most programmers would use. Okay, so all right, now what we want to do is go in next line, sorry, and then one more next line. Right. So here, this is the interesting part. All we're going to do here is essentially take the input string, okay, and go from the tail of the input string to the head. You're gonna this way, right? Picking out characters from there and sticking them in R. That's all. Yes. Hey, Jaden, you bored or sleepy? All right, you're sleepy. Okay. All right. Okay to be sleepy, but not bored. All right. So is everybody clear? So that's what we're trying to do. What we're going to do is you're going to do a for loop there, and in the for loop we're going to pick characters out of S from the tail to the head and stick those same characters in R and then return R at the end. That's all we're going to do. 3 lines of code, and it'll be pretty straightforward. The next step after we got it working, we'll take that program to the next level and say, well, you know, we're going to do that, but it's going to introduce a little difficult, you know, a small challenge, and we'll see how we can slowly morph this program into something that is really, really solid, rock solid, okay, and does things efficiently and nicely. Okay, all right. So here, put in a for loop, right? For size t I equals 0. And in the for loop, and we have to get into the habit and practice. Are you a Python programmer or something, Hasanta? Because every time in the past when I had people coding for me and they omit these parentheses, right? Most of the time they're Python programmers, because in Python many times you don't need parentheses. Okay, put a parentheses after a for. Okay, for open parentheses. Yeah, and then you know usually people don't have a space before the open parentheses because that's attached to the for, but you know it's up to you. You can do it. Right. For size underscore t, space I equals 0. Semicolon, I less than s dot length, yeah, space s dot l tab, yeah, l length, yeah, length, open close, semicolon, I plus plus, right, close parentheses. On the next line, all we're going to do is right, R open square bracket, okay, and I'll explain what this line is, okay, in square bracket, and inside the square bracket, what we want to do is the first character from S needs to become the last character in R, yes or no? And the second character needs to be the second from last, and then when we've done that, the whole of S would have been flipped in R. Are we in agreement so far? Okay, well, I see, you know, Tim and Anthony nodding their heads, but you know, Jose, yeah. Well, actually, you know what? Your thumb, I could only see it because in the Zoom, yeah. Thank you, because the Zoom name tab is obscuring part of it. Okay, so what we want to do there is essentially R square bracket R dot length, open close, minus I, okay, equals. No. This is no. So I'm sorry. Outside of the square bracket. Yeah. Equals S of I. S. Oh, I'm sorry. S square bracket I. S square bracket I. Yeah. And then semicolon right there. That's it. Why did it indent? Oh, you had your indentation incorrect, and then when you hit the semicolon, VS Code automatically fixed the indentation. Very cool, isn't it? So those are the nice freebies we get by using these IDEs. Okay, that's it. On the blank line there, and then just say return R. Okay, that's it. Now close the remove the blank line after the return. That's your function, right? 4 lines. This is 4 lines. Yeah, 4 lines, and that is your function, and that is going to flip the string that we give it. Okay, so now if you go to your main,
should it be also -1, R dot length -1, and minus I? Because if you take R the R dot length index, it will be out of range, right?
R dot length will be out of range, but R dot length minus. Oh, yeah. That's right. I see. Thank you, Changwen. Thank you so much. For keeping your eye, very closely looking at it. Okay, so what Changwen is saying is that if I is 0, if I have, because we're starting the loop at 0, right? We're not starting at 1, starting at 0. She says, R dot length minus 0 is R dot length, and so if it was 5, then S of 5 is beyond the end, because if you look at a string, the string indexing starts at 0. So if a string, if the input string was 5 characters wide, you'd have character 0, character 1, character 2, character 3, character 4. That's already 5. Yes. So character 5, there's no character of 5 that is out of range of the string. Yes. So, but the way that we wrote the loop is actually different. So meaning that this way will cause an out of bounds access, something that doesn't belong to you, you go and get it. So what she's saying is basically stick in after the minus I, say minus I minus 1, right? Minus I minus 1. Now let's make sure the corner cases work out here. Now if you go to if when it's on the other side, the minus 1 will still work, I think, right? So you go, it has to work. Length minus 1. Yes, it'll work. You'll get 0. That's great. Okay, now it'll work. Please run this code in your head, and like Changwen, right? If you find an issue, which is unlikely, is the only issue she already found, I think, right? So now you can fill out the rest of main using exactly the same way that we did before. Now Hasanta is not going to type the code himself. He's still going to just function in the code of in the capacity of typist. Now whoever prompted Shadi to type the remaining part of main last class, right? In main, we had the prompt and reading in and so on and so forth. So, we had the same arrangement. Someone called out the code and Shadi typed, right? That person should hopefully refrain and not say what needs to be typed. Someone else, ideally, is going to tell Hasanta what to type, and Hasanta will type it in. It's only 2 lines, right? So you have to print the prompt, read it in. And you have to create a variable, obviously, into which you have to read it in. Okay, so this is about 3 lines to type in. Can someone please call out the code for Hasanta? Well, I'll go and take, I need to go and pee, and I'll come back in like 5 minutes or so. And that's enough, right? 2 minutes even. That's enough. If you just finish it up, and then we'll take it from there. And in fact, you can finish it up and run it too. And by the time I come back, you say, oh, we've done it, we've got it, we've input a sentence and look at the flip. Okay, and then we'll play with it for a while, and then we'll go back and change that function to something slightly more sophisticated. Is that okay? Okay, great. So that's what we want to do. Please go ahead and do it. I'm going to turn the laptop around so I'm not in your face. I'm not even going to be here, right? I have to go to the bathroom. So when I'm back, I hope to see that completed. Okay, so ready to run. Basically, you should be in a position where you can hit the triangle button and it runs. Is that okay? 2 minutes. Someone else call the code and Hasanta will type it in. Okay. If nobody does that, I'll do it. But I'm hoping, and I expect it won't be the case, because you guys should, hopefully be solid on that. Yeah. All right, thank you.
So is it just a matter of invoking what we have so far into main, or do we also have to add on any other parts of the code?
So we had to ask from the user again to type in a sentence probably.
So so like cin.
Probably. Like a prompt like that to ask and then see in.
Yeah, at first.
It should be the variable, I believe.
I just put, oh yeah, sorry.
I'm not sure how to fill this part though.
CN, yeah.
in the use input.
We need to create a string then to put it into.
We did, right?
Oh, you did, yeah, that's right.
Let's look right.
At that point with the C out user, then would you put in the string right next to the user input, or how would you? Oh,
We declared it
Sometimes
as a string already, right? On the code.
no, I was talking about like string R, string S. Is that?
I'm not sure actually if somebody can help.
Well,
Are you guys stuck or waiting for input from someone else?
waiting, so we can just see out the function, right? Using user input as a,
Here you can say maybe your input is something. Then followed by user input. Then endo. You should put the last, yeah, this one. And below the second to do, you see out, then you call the function. Oh, you put maybe a string like the reverse the string is something like that. And then followed by you call the function. And you put the user input into the parameter.
yeah.
And endo.
Should we run it now?
Yeah, I think that's it.
Anybody want to say something?
Where is it running? I don't see the prompt anywhere.
okay,
Where's
okay.
it gone? Oh,
It's
is it
in
coming
the-
up in a different panel?
Yeah, it's in my command window.
Oh, I said, yeah, that part I don't like with VS Code then. because in the other IDEs, they capture that panel and present it inside of the IDE. Right? In Xcode and all, you can see that console inside there. Hey, by the way, you need to fix there's a spelling error, right? It's not it's a sentence.
Yeah.
And we'll come up. We'll do the cleanup. Well, let's make sure the functionality is there, and then we can go and clean up the spelling errors and all. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Test it out. Yeah. All right. All right. Okay. So we have some interesting things. We have actually seen some very interesting things here. Okay. Now, what happened? So can someone describe the behavior to the rest of the class and say, did it do the job? Did it do the job correctly? Did it do the job completely? And if it didn't do so, what could potentially be the problem? Okay, so these are all interesting.
Cin only takes the first input before the space. I mean, you have to call it Cin like a few times.
Yes. So Xiangwen correctly described the problem that Cin will stop reading from the keyboard as soon as it encounters what it deems to be a delimiter. A delimiter means, some part of the character space which tells me that I'm at the end of what I'm supposed to read. A space, unfortunately, is a delimiter for Cin, right? So you can do some fancy dances in C++ to say, hey, Cin, space is not a delimiter anymore. Then it'll read the whole line, but it's totally not worth it to do it that way. So therefore, what programmers in C++ tend to do is instead of using Cin for reading in whole sentences, they will use getLine. Okay, getLine will read everything until the carriage return or the end of line character. So in our code, instead of using Cin, use getLine. And in fact, I'm not going to walk you through that. Go to the code that you had and then Google, right? Google to in that tab you had to say getLine, C++ getLine syntax. Okay, and then you'll see, right? The first hit will tell you how to use getLine. Right, right there, you can type getLine, getLine C++ even. That's fine. See, yeah, getLine. No, it has to be one word. Oh, I actually figured it out. All right, the first one, yeah. And it'll tell you how to use getLine. So change your code so that it uses getLine instead of Cin. And then let's see what happens. So you want to know how to, yeah, there you go. There are examples right there. Yeah. So yeah, someone has to tell Asantha what he needs to change. Someone other than Xiangwen this time, okay? Thank you. Every time we get a chance to edit, we can fix up these little problems. And also you can clean it up a little bit. Take the string user input declaration and put it right at the top immediately after main starts so that the declaration part is separated from the logic part. Yeah. Yeah. Put it there. There you go. And the indentation for cout is messed up, so we can fix up the indentation and also the to-do. And the to-do needs to be attached to the code, not to the declaration part. Attach the code to the to-do part. Yeah, there you go. Excellent. All right, so you want to use getLine instead of the part that Hasanta just commented out. Can someone tell him how to use getLine there? Anyone can take a stab, okay? Even if you're not comfortable or confident, take a stab, right? And then someone else will say, well, no, let's do it that way. That's all, right? And then we'll all know how to do it. So even if you don't know how to do it, if you're going to say, I'm going to say, oh, you need to say getLine, square bracket, something. Yeah, okay, we'll go ahead and type it out. And then someone else will say, no, it's not square bracket, parentheses, and we'll fix it, okay? So just take a stab. The most important thing is taking a stab at things, okay? The only people who succeed are the people who try. Because if you try, you have a chance of success and a chance of failure. But if you don't try, you have only a chance of failure, no chance of success, right? So it's important to try.
You can type getLine parentheses, cin, commas, user input.
Identifier get line is, why does it say a get line is unknown?
You had to probably call a class or library,
Sorry.
Yeah.
call a library on the top.
No, it should be in IOStream. Just say hash include string there for, no, string is already there because you were using string. Why is get line
Should it be
undefined?
STD? Like,
Yeah, put STD in front of it. Qualify that STD double colon get line, right? Make it STD double colon get line. But we're using namespace standard, so it should, wow. And that, no, it just still didn't fix it. Why can't it not no get line? Okay, all right. So
does it have to sorry, does it have to be a part of like the C out?
no, that what we have there. Let's go back to the declaration to make sure that the order CN and user input are right. Which one goes first? Let's go back to our get line function. To that. Before that, let's try one more thing. Okay, just type get line open parentheses. We'll see if we get auto completes. Right. So on get to the end of line 25, hit enter. Hit enter there. Yeah, and just type get line and E. You're not getting auto completes. You don't get auto completes of get line.
You want to try include the string?
No, sir, frozen.
You can try that, but string is already included because you see we use a string variable and it didn't complain. Well, rather than waste time on this, what we'll do is hit Control A, and select the whole thing. Select the whole thing. Control A, right? Copy that. Have you copied it?
Yeah.
Control C.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Go to your browser and open a tab. Open a tab in your browser. And go to onlinegdb.com, right? So you can pick any of those sites. I just picked onlinegdb. Yeah. Oh, one word, onlinegdb.com. Now, in case we don't have these IDEs installed on our computers, and we just need to do a really quick C++ program in a public library or at a friend's home, right? And you can always go onto an online compiler and create a program like this. Okay, so there are so many online compilers out there. You just program inside of your browser. The reason to use an IDE is really for bigger projects, which have many files, need to be managed and saved and shared between people. Then you start using IDEs. For simple programs, you just go to an online compiler and try it out. Because many times what happens is that you may have ideas, right? A sudden flash of an idea that you want to test out, and you may not be near your own computer. You may be somewhere else in a friend's house or in a library or something like that. All you need to do is just hop onto any terminal that's connected to the internet. Just go to an online compiler site like this, onlinegdb.com. You can write your program, test it out, and say, okay, well, that idea was good, right? So you're not bound by these things anymore. So you can, all right, now we do a Control A and then paste. No, Control A and paste. Let's get rid of the whole thing. Control A and now paste it. Okay, now you have your code here. Now get line should work. Okay, now you can get rid of std double colon get line and make it standard get line, because I bet they're using the proper setup. Okay, now let's also fix one more thing. I saw reversed is got a spelling error. Get rid of fix the reversed R, and then you got a bunch of blank lines above the to do, right? So make that just one blank line. Yeah, click there and backspace one more time. Okay, all right, so I think that should do it. Okay, now if you can try it and see if we get the right answer. Yeah, which one? Oh, you need to select the language. Select the language. There, you're right. Yeah, there you go. All right, you can say hello CS2A students or something like that. Type it's already running. So go to the console. Yeah, you can type a sentence there. Yeah, anything. Yeah. Something wrong here. Oh, your input is. Oh yeah, it is. It's correct. So yeah, you see it flipped. Okay, now is everybody happy so far? We haven't used any branching. Okay, that's all we've done. Yes. Now we're going to take this and make it slightly more sophisticated, so that it involves not so that it involves branching. It'll give us an opportunity to say, well, the only way to do that is if I had some branching facility. So now that we have a motivation to use branching, we can do it in a slightly different way. Now, before we do that, this is the basic thing we want to do. So I want everybody to be on the same page and comfortable with what we've done so far, because this is the simplest, right? So this is your icebreaker in an interview. You say, you give a sentence and say, write a simple C++ program that's going to reverse the string. Okay, they start out and they've done that. Now the candidate is at ease, right? And say, well, I've already done something, so I'm not, here empty-handed anymore. Now they'll feel confident. They will be much more receptive to showcasing more of things they know, because otherwise there's a resistance to say, well, all right, good. Okay, so is everybody okay with this? Can we go on to the next step? Thank you.
For me, it's only reversing the first word. Like I'll put hello and then space students, and only give me back reversed hello.
I'm sorry, if you put in only one word, it's going to reverse only one word.
I put 2 words, but it only reversed the first word.
Oh, then you're probably still using CN. Greater than.
I changed it to the get line one, and it gives you that that full
Oh, it does?
sentence.
It's still doing that? That's wrong. I'm very curious. Would it be? Hey, Hasanta, can you take a break? I want to look at the screen of either Juan or Jose to see why that's happening, because that's really strange. That shouldn't be happening at all.
No, mine's working fine. I think it's because I changed it to the get line CN, so mine's working fine.
What about who was the other one? Michael?
It was Juan. Juan was
Juan.
Mine's not working fine.
So let's take a look
real
at yours.
quick,
Yeah, let's take a look at your screen.
Hold
And excuse me, Professor, by the way, like when I include the IO stream, the get line start to work on that other program. On our,
When you include IO stream.
yeah, the get line, the underline went away.
But we had that from the beginning. Oh,
No,
you mean in VS Code?
Yeah,
VS Code.
yeah. So
But we had that. We had a hash include IO stream at the top, even the beginning, right?
No, I'm sorry, IO string. I mean, no, just string. Include string, then that get line start to work.
Oh, wow.
I
is that
also
right?
did that, but then like I commented out string and it still worked. So I'm
In
not sure
VS
what-
Code, Tim? Is it VS Code?
in VS Code, yeah.
Okay. So yeah, Hassan, I don't know, because that is very uncommon. I haven't seen that behavior before. That's why I was confused. But I have seen that behavior, strangely enough, a very long time ago when my students were programming with Visual Studio Code. That's why I was not, I became an Xcode fan at that time, because Visual Studio was painful to set up. And it had all these include libraries in various different places, and figuring out what to include and where, because simple things like IOStream and string, beginners need to know, and it was throwing red ink all over the place. So I thought that was all gone with VS Code, but so I'm glad that that you found out that you can hash include string and it worked. But we'll stick with the online GDB today because it's a simple program. Yeah, are you all okay with that? It's exactly the same, isn't it? Okay. So if you're comfortable with that, we want to go to the program again, and let's make a small change. Yeah. Let's say that we want to change this horizontally flipped text to do it in place, which means that I've given you a string and you need to flip it. However, you don't have the luxury of creating a brand new string and moving things from there to here. In other words, you got to flip it in place. You got to change that string right in place. Okay, so that is the next challenge, and that's an important challenge, because many algorithms in computer science are useful and valuable only because they do things in place, right? Meaning that there are other algorithms that do the same job, exactly the same job, but they don't do it in place. And that's why this, so it is a huge part of computer science to figure out how you can do things without asking for extra space. And so we're going to try and do that. We're going to try and flip the string in place. Now, before we do that, we're going to generate some ideas because, you know, this is a new problem, potentially a new problem. So we're going to generate some ideas, and it doesn't have to be C++ ideas. You're going to say, if I'm going to have to do this in place, what would I do? Right? Mainly, if I gave you a box of chocolates, right? A box of chocolates in a row. And I said, you got to now give me the same box, but the chocolates are arranged in the reverse order, right? So don't have to think about C++. What would you do? Right? Give me some systematic way, share some systematic way with your colleagues and your classmates to say, this is how I do it. If I had to do this, you know, chocolates, a box of chocolates, and I need to make a statement, okay, with the box of chocolates. However, this box of chocolates is Valentine's Day. I need to ship it to a girlfriend or boyfriend who lives in a country where his letters are read from this side to that side, you know, from right to left, not from left to right. You all know that famous, I don't know if it's a real story or not, apocryphal story maybe. It's about the story of the Tide detergent, right? There's a Tide in a long time ago. I've told the story like 5 times to my CS2A students in the past, okay? When Tide, there's a detergent called Tide, okay? It's very popular in the US. So when they launched an advertising campaign, apparently in New York, they said, we want our campaign to reach everybody, not only the people who know how to read English, right? So we want our campaign to reach everybody. So we want a banner all over New York, billboards all over New York, which advertise Tide, but don't use any English, right? So in fact, the advertisement should be only pictures. And so the team came up with a really clever panel. This billboard has 2 panels, okay? On the left side of the panel, there's a bucket with, you know, Tide suds, you know, on it, obviously, because it's got suds in it. And there's a woman, because in those days, you know, people said, you know, only women were doing laundry and shit like that. Okay, so they had a woman dipping a dirty shirt, okay, dirty shirt into that detergent, right? Well, you can't say you see action. So she's got that shirt on top of the detergent. The right side of the billboard, another panel. She's got the same shirt in her hands, but it's sparkling white and clean. Okay, so that's all. And underneath they had the Tide logo. And so people who are driving and looking at the billboard, they don't have time to read the stuff. They oh wow, you know, by Tide. So and then sales basically took off in New York after the campaign was launched, took off, and Tide became a huge success. And everybody started using Tide because they wanted to do that, because subconsciously, maybe subliminally, as some people will say, they knew, okay, go to the supermarket, a grocery store, I want to buy Tide because that's what. So they said, we're going to run this campaign so successful. We're going to run it everywhere, whole over, you know, the whole world, everywhere in the world, we're going to run the same campaign, right? So, and everywhere they ran it, Tide, sales took off as they predicted, except in the Middle East, right? In the Middle East, people who are already using Tide stopped using it because they were reading the billboard right to left and said, why is this woman taking this very clean white shirt, dipping it in Tide and pulling it out and it's all dirty, right? So I'm going to stop using Tide. So it's because the direction of reading is important. It's just like in computer science. Because when you have the most significant byte and the least significant byte, the order in which they are is of crucial value to what the value of the number is, right? 91 is different from 19. And it's only the order, the place value system that gives it to us. So I don't know where we're going with that. But essentially, what we want to do here is we've got that. We just want to flip it around. And in place, just so imagine you're going to do this with a box of chocolates, right? Chocolates in a row, and there's no C++. Once you've come up with a strategy to deal with a box of chocolates, then once you have the strategy in your mind, exactly the same strategy, you can implement in Python, JavaScript, C++, doesn't matter, right? So anyone in an interview, that's why in interviews, they don't say, this is a problem. And they don't say you have to solve it in C++, right? No self-respecting software company these days will say, here's a problem, solve it in this particular language, right? Unless it's a small scale startup that is hugely invested in one particular stack, and say everything we do is in Java, then they'll say you have to do it in Java. But if you go to any decent, software company that has a lot of work going on, they'll say, here's a problem, solve it any way you want. And in fact, many of these problems at the advanced levels, they don't even require you to solve it in English, right? In a language, right? You can actually solve it in English and say, you're given a problem, and you'll say, well, in order to solve the problem, this is what I need to do, right? I need to get that computed, this computed, this computed, this can all be done by computers. That needs to be done by a human. We'll combine this and get the result. Okay, that's the kind of interview that will eventually take place in your life. And before you start handing out interviews like that to other people, right? And say, well, are they doing it this way? So the most important part of computer science is just coming up with a solution, not coding it in C++ or Python or Java. So think about how you would do it with just a box of chocolates, and discuss it amongst yourself verbally, loud, and say, this is a strategy I would use. So suppose I was given a string, and someone says, I need to flip it in place, right? This is what I would do, right? So once you have that, we'll take this to the next level, and then from there to a couple more levels, right? In gradually increasing levels of complexity until we have something really, really cool. And hopefully we'll get to that. Damn, it's 9:41 already. All right, so let's go fast. So can someone just come up with a strategy right now? Just in English, okay? How would you swap box chocolates? Reverse it. How would you do that? If you had this task to do, how would you do that? Take a stab. Take a stab. Jaden, you have your hand raised. No?
Yeah.
Basically,
All right.
flip the whole box other way.
Sorry?
Flip the whole box.
Yes, you want to flip the whole box, right? You have a row of chocolates. You want to flip the whole box, but you don't have another box where you can take this and put it there and this. And so that's what
He
you did
meant
before,
just flip
right?
the box itself.
Yeah, flip the box by itself.
How would you flip the box by itself? That's what we want to do, right? So how would you do that? How would you
You
do
just grab one end and just reverse it to the other end. Kind of like
that? Yeah,
how
you
we
could.
did.
That's correct. That's correct. That's correct. Go on. That is the right. That's the right direction. Right direction. Okay. So what Jose said was you're going to grab one end,
So
and
what-
then
what you're asking is how
and then
to
what?
reverse the order of the stuff in the box.
All of them, all the chocolates need to be reversed. Yeah.
Right.
So Jose is saying we're going to start from one end, which is a very good start. Okay. And what do you do after you start at one end?
You move that end to the beginning and then you
Yeah.
just start from end to the front. You just start flipping it. I think.
Okay. Well, I can understand. I can understand what Jose is saying. Okay. And I can see the picture playing out in his head, and it's correct. But I don't know if you guys understand it. Okay. So if anybody still has any, any questions about how this would work, this would be a chance to maybe, try someone else, try rephrasing what Jose just said in slightly different ways. Or I can tell you.
Is he saying that like you take the number of chocolates and you say like 5 times, just move one from the left side?
Oh,
to the
yeah,
right?
you mean one after another? No, but that'll
Yeah.
just rotate, right? So you take this to here, this one, and everything moves, right? And you do it n times, everything is back to the same position, right? It's a very interesting problem, isn't it? It's a very interesting problem. These are the kinds of problems you'll solve repeatedly. How
Can
would you do
you
that?
add one space to the end of the string, move everything to the right once, and then take the last string and then put it back to the beginning? Or take the last
string-
character, sorry. So add one size to the string. So a size 5 to a size 6.
Okay.
Take the last character, put it at the end, and then take the second to last character and move it towards the beginning, and then you loop that until you get to the last character.
Oh, all right. Okay. That's a very good approach, Michael, and it will actually work. Okay. The only reason that we're not going to do it is because we want to do it without even that extra space. We don't want to resize that character, the string that you're given. Okay. So we want to do this. So someone else, a slightly different approach.
Can you create like a temporary holder? You
can have one temporary holder. Okay, basically what Changwon is asking for is one character variable, right? One character variable that's just going to hold something, which essentially is going to function in a way in the same capacity as what Michael suggested, because Michael suggested increasing the size of the string by one character, right? But Changwon is saying it doesn't have to be part of the string. right? You just hold on to the extra character variable out here. So you have an extra character variable that's allowed. Okay, so let's say you have a character variable. So you can have, all right. So how do you do this now?
You have a temporary holder, then you put the last string last character to this temporary holder, and then you put the first. You can put the first one to the last, and then put the temporary to the first.
Okay, so all right. So and exactly what Michael suggested. Chongwen has now re-engineered that to fit within the constraint that we're going to take that extra space at the end of the extended string and move it into a separate variable. And then we'll basically say, move this guy here, and then that goes, and then this is vacated, that goes here, and so on and so forth. Okay, now that will work, except, okay, that'll work. Okay, that's not the approach I had in mind. I'll describe an approach which is very similar. Why it's similar is something that you can discuss in the forums. Okay, but it's going to be very similar to what Chongwen and Michael discussed. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. So I have this box of chocolates. I'm going to grab both ends, because nowhere in the looping paradigm, the looping, does it say that when you loop, you only have to go from one end, right? When you loop, you can do the same, basically doing the same thing over and over again. So I'm going to say, in my loop, I'm going to grab both ends, okay? And then swap the two. And then I'm going to go inwards one step. Grab those, swap those. More inwards, grab those, swap those, until I meet in the middle. When I meet in the middle or crossover, everything has been flipped. Now, if you can play that in your head and you see that everything works, we can actually implement that, okay? And we'll see that will also work. Now, that is an in-place flipping algorithm that does not require extra space. It is going to operate within the string that's given to us by taking values from the ends, swapping them over, and then moving closer. And the next two values, swapping them over. Will that work or not? Yeah? Okay, so this movement here that we've just, this is a new form of movement. Movement meaning in an array or a string, we start at two ends, not at one end. And so having, or when you do more complex data structures, these are called cursors, right? A cursor is on a screen, for example. A cursor is where you type. Yes, it shows you where you are. Cursor. So there's no reason you should only have one cursor. Yes. In fact, I know even now IDEs, some complex IDEs, not complex, right? Some sophisticated high-class IDEs that you can get from out there. They let multiple people to edit the same file at the same time, and they give you multiple cursors. So maybe Anthony is editing the file with a green cursor up here, right? I think Google Docs does that too, right? When Google Docs, when you have a shared, so multiple people can edit and have multiple cursors on the screen. And you can track them all separately. So having the ability to have multiple cursors and manipulate them, or manipulate the characters they're pointing to, is a very powerful aspect of programming, which is exploited ad nauseum, right? When you do quick sort and all things like that, right? There's sophisticated sorting algorithms or a list traversal, when doing things with a list or a tree where you need to find, so having multiple runners or multiple cursors progressing through the list, you can do incredible things like that. Okay, so that's what we're going to do, and this is going to be practiced. I can imagine this is practicing this in lecture number 5 of CS2A, beginning CS2A. We're playing with multiple cursors on a string, which is a core skill to have. So let's go back to our code, and then we'll say we'll modify that program. Well, in fact, we'll copy that thing and we'll call a brand new. We'll create a brand new function, right? We'll say what is so Hasanta or Hasanta, you can share that URL with yeah. All right. Even if someone else wants to do it, I'm pretty sure Hasanta can share that URL, right? So when you click the share button, the orange button there, the orange button share, the share orange, the orange button. Yeah, click that. But you don't have to share it now. I'm just pointing it out. So you see that thing there, share code, right? Now, if Michael, if Hasanta copies that and shares it on Reddit or any other forum, right, or even an email, other people will be able to click that and go to this code that Hasanta type, and
It's
they
on
can
the
fork
chat
it and then
right
edit
now.
it and run it themselves. Yeah. So when you want to share code on Reddit, this is a great opportunity, the great way to do it. Okay, you can just share it on online GDB and then take the link and put it in Reddit. So people can actually not only view your code, they'd actually be able to run it and look at the output too and interact with it. So, all right, let's go back to this code. Now go to the beginning of the place where you have edited the file, right? The function. Okay. Now copy that whole function, including the comment, line 10 to 18. Copy that and paste it again under that blank line, and then paste it. Blank line before that, and then blank line after that too. And we'll change the name of the function because it's going to be doing the same thing but slightly differently. So instead of calling it horizontally flip text, put underscore in place, right? Underscore in place. No. You need to have the at the end, text underscore in place. Okay. Now let's change the comment above that to say this does the same as the previous function, except it doesn't do it in a new string, right? It does the same as the previous function, but it doesn't do it in a new string. It does it in place. Yeah, basically that's what in place means. But same as the previous function, but it does it in place. And put a space before the but, right? A function but, should we have a space between the two, right? So now this is what we're going to implement. One change we have to make to the function signature, which will not be obvious now. You won't understand what it is, and I'm not going to spend time explaining it, but I will talk about what that is 3 lectures from now. When we start talking about functions, I'll tell you what that actually means. Now put an ampersand in front of the S in string S, okay? That is in front, put an ampersand there. Okay, shift 7. Right, and no, don't put a space there because it's not and, it's actually ampersand. Now at the end of line 20, hit enter at the end of line 20. Right, and put a comment there saying ignore the ampersand before the S for now. In front of the S for now. S for now, it is what is called passing by reference. Or you can just put, the open parentheses. You can say passing by reference, right? Or passed by reference. Okay, you can look that up. If you want to read up on it ahead of time, that's what it is. You can just look it up. You can Google that and understand that. But we will talk about that in a few lectures from now. Okay. So now let's get rid of string R, S length and all that. We don't need that anymore, right? So get rid of line 23. Okay. And put a blank line before main also, so that this function is separated. Okay. Now let's go to the beginning of this function, line 23. And set up our 2 cursors. Okay, we're going to set up our 2 cursors. That's interesting, isn't it? Your default indentation is stopping at 3 lines, 3 spaces, but VS Code knows to correct that before. 1 more space there. Okay, all right. Now you're going to say size t, I comma j, or you can say I comma j is fine. I comma j, right? Semicolon, right? And then some spaces, and then start a comment right there and say left and right cursors. Okay, left and right cursors. cursors, cursors, okay, now let's also initialize the values of I and j because we know what they're going to be, right? I is a left cursor, it starts at 0. Yes, I starts at 0. J starts on the right side. So that should be s dot length minus 1. Yes or no? Yeah. Okay, all right.
Yes.
Nobody's nodding. Okay. All right. Thank you. So so let's say size t I equals 0. Yeah. No. Right there. This is on the declaration line. Size t I. Yeah. Space equals 0. Right. And j should be s dot length minus 1. J should be s dot length minus 1. Length open close minus 1. Okay, now go to the end and hit enter. Yeah. Okay. All right. Now here's what we're going to do. And in fact, here you actually have, we're going to use a different kind of loop. Okay. We're going to use a slightly different kind of loop. And you can look it up. Okay. We'll use while loops just for, just for the heck of it. You can do it using for loops, but we'll use while loops. So you know what we can do. All right. So now enter there, enter. Now the loop we're going to use is while I, open parentheses, while I is less than j. Okay, while I is less than j. All right, now go to the end, space brace, right? Space brace, enter. All right, now get rid of the for and all, the line 28, 29 can go. Okay, now all we're going to do in here is swap s of I with s of j. Yes or no? There is a function called swap, okay, in the standard library that we can use, which basically saves us having to create that variable that Huan wanted at the end of the string. Huan said, let's have, extend this and get one more character. And then Changwon said, it doesn't have to be at the end of the string. We can actually create a variable. So we don't even have to do that because the swap function has that variable built in. So we can basically just, at that point, we can say swap, open parentheses, s square bracket I, and then comma after the square bracket. No, not there. After the square bracket. Yeah, get rid of the comma and the space. Yeah. Yeah. Now say, yeah, the space there, space after the comma. Say s of j. No, s square bracket j. All right. Now at the end, put a semicolon. On the next line, what you need to do is after you've swapped the two, I should go to the next one. Yes, and j should go to the next one too. So I should move to the right, and j should move to the left. Are we clear so far? Right? We cool? So what are we going to do? I should be incremented and j should be decremented. Yes? So we're going to say I plus plus, semicolon, space. Go to the next line. Go to the next line. J minus minus. That's it. Okay. Now, because this is doing it in place, you can make this function void instead of returning a string, because it doesn't have to return anything. You gave it a box and it's done stuff in the box and said, I'm done, right? It doesn't have to return anything to you. Yes. So you can make that a void. Now it doesn't return a string. Get rid of the word string. No, not there. Yeah, there we go. All right. Yeah. All right. Now, because it doesn't return anything, you can't have return R at the end. And besides, we don't even have something called R. So get rid of that. The whole thing. Right. That's it. That's it. That's the end of the function. Right. No, get rid of the blank lines also. Okay. One thing we have to do is go to your main now. In your main, you see previously what we did was we got return value and printed it. But here it's not going to return a value. Yes. So we still need to print it. So this is how you call a function that does things in place inside a parameter that's been passed to it, not in a brand new one and return to you. All right. So here what we're going to do is, so on line 46, hit enter. Yeah, enter at the end. Yeah, enter. Now, yeah, enter. Oh yeah, you have these to-dos that you have to clean up later. That's fine. Okay. So now here we will say, what's the name of our function? The name of our function was horizontally flip text in place. Yeah. Call that function. Call that function. Yeah. Call that function. Just call it right there. And we're going to pass it as a parameter user input. Now copy that reverse string as that line 46 and put it under here also. right? Triple click on line 46 and put it under our function call line. Yeah, put it under this one. Except here, we're going to change that and say reverse string and then say in place, so that we know this is, yeah, in place. Okay. Now, yeah, call this, no, we don't have to call it. You've already called it and it's done. User input is now reversed. So you just have to print your user input. Just say print user. You don't have to call it there. Just say user input instead of that whole thing. Yeah, left shift user input before end-L. User underscore input. You actually had the autocomplete come up. You could have hit return. Yeah, enter and space left shift. Okay, that's it. All right, you got 2 blank lines after that. You can get rid of one, and that's ready to go. So if you run it now, you should see the same result. Okay, so yeah, run it now. Right, so type whatever you want, right? Hello or ABC or ABC or yeah. Okay. Right, so it works in both cases. So I want to take this to one more level. Okay, it's one more level. Run it one more time. Run one more time. Run one more time. So type this in. Okay, type this sentence in. Able, ABLE, all lowercase. Able was I. Ere, ERE. Space I saw Elba. So this is that famous sentence supposedly spoken by Napoleon. Okay, now you want to reverse this sentence. Let's see what we get. Enter. No, no, hang on, not Alba, it's Elba. Space Elba. Oh, thank goodness. All right, now hit enter. All right. So even after reversing, it's exactly the same. All right, because this is a high quality palindrome. It's a high quality palindrome, meaning let's take the low quality palindrome. So run it again. Right. So let's try the low quality palindrome. I looked it up. Okay, this is what it is. A man, a plan, a canal, space Panama. Okay, now hit enter. Okay, so the reverse sentence is also a man. It's also the same, except because the spaces didn't get reflected properly. It's it's all messed up. Okay, but you see how everything got is. But the previous palindrome was a good one. Yes. All right. So this is a way. So in fact, if in an interview, if someone says write a program to generate a palindrome, right, or to check if something is a palindrome, how would you do? If someone gives you a string and says in an interview, write a program that can tell if a given string is a palindrome or not, right? How would you do that? So one way to do it is to generate the reverse and see if the 2 strings are the same. That should work. Yes. But that's a less than efficient approach, right? Because you have to generate the string. Technically speaking, if you just want to check if something is a palindrome, you don't need to generate it. All you need to do is basically just check, right? Is this the same as that? Is this the same as that, right? The moment you find that the first thing is mismatched, you can say, no, it's not a palindrome. So you don't check the whole thing. Yeah, so that is a way in which you can define an is palindrome function that only checks, but not generates the reverse. Right now, suppose the candidate has solved the first problem and then also says, all right, now you're warmed up. Now let's do the same thing in place. Okay, and they've done that too, right? So that should typically happen in the first 10 minutes. So reasonable candidates, they'd be able to do this in 5 or 10 minutes up to here. Now you tell them, okay, now I want to reverse the string, except I want to reverse the words in the string. So in other words, I want all the words to be swapped in places, but the words themselves should not be swapped. Okay, so when I say hello foothill, right, it should say foothill hello. It shouldn't say some gobbledygook. So I don't want the letters to be swapped, I want the words to be swapped. Okay, how would you do that? Now I'm not going to go into that here, because it is like a super duper interesting problem. Okay, and it's going to be, it has a lot of really tasty juice in there, and I don't want to suck it away. So I would like for you to take that problem that I just described, which is to say, I want to reverse a sentence, but all the words should be reversed, but the words themselves should not be reversed, right? All the word positions should be reversed. So that's an interesting problem, and it is, that could be the end of the tail end of the first round of interviews, right? So each interview, every candidate has like 5 or 6 rounds of interviews, right? So and each interview itself will have multiple phases. So the first phase is getting them warmed up. The second phase is a slightly challenging problem. And the third phase is, a real challenging problem, which will give us insight into how the candidate is thinking in their head. Okay, so this is what you'll ask them. Before you let them go to the next phase of the interview, say, all right, now we've crossed a moderately challenging problem. Let's see if we can do this slightly more challenging problem where you want to reverse the sentence, but all the words should not be reversed. All the positions of the words should be reversed. Okay, now I can tell you right now that you have, actually you need one more function. Okay, so I'm not going to define the whole function for you, but you will need this in order to solve that problem. So, and I'll just give you the signature of the function. Okay, go back to the beginning of your code, all right, reduce the kind of thing. And I'm just going to give you the definite signature of this function. So the third function, you're going to put the third function there, right? enter a couple of times there. Yeah, right. Now copy just the signature, void, that part, and put it there, right? And put it there. Except it's going to take 2 more parameters now, right? So after the S, put a comma there, and say comma, say size t n, size t space n, space n, and comma, size t space m. And the comment above this function is going to be, right? So put a comment above this function, just like before. No, above, a blank line on 32. Put a comment there. And this comment should be, does exactly the same as the previous, except same. In fact, you can get rid of does exactly too. So it's the same as the previous function, right? The same as, this is the same as, yeah, I think it's the same as the previous function, except it only reverses the portion of the string between portion, and then enter to the next line, I think. Enter. Yeah, of the string between indices n and m inclusive, meaning you're also going to take into, right, between indices, INDICES, or indexes, right? Indexes. M and N, or N and M, N and M, inclusive. Inclusive, you can put in parentheses if you want. That's fine. All right. Now let's change the name of the function also. Right. So because we can have many functions the same name. So in fact, you can technically, because this is called overloading, but we won't go into that now. We'll just call it a different name altogether. Horizontally flip text in place, and also say text. After text you say no, in place is good. In place, after text you say underscore after text, and then in range, within given range. Now I'm mindful of the fact that we're just blowing up these function names to enormous. You don't do that in practice, okay? When you're coding professionally, you don't choose function names that are so big. And we're doing it here because it'll lessen our commenting load so that it's very clear to people that read it, okay? All right, so, and then, this is, you can put to do there. And are you guys within given range, not within name, within range, right? Within range. Okay, so this function is given a string and it's asked to reverse characters in the string, except that it says, don't reverse the whole string. I'll give you, this is a string, and I'll give you the one position, I'll give you another position. You only need to reverse the portion of the string between these two positions. Yes? Okay, that's what this function is supposed to do. And once you have this function implemented, you have everything you need in order to solve that later challenge that I described, which is to reverse a string and leave the words unreversed. Okay? Now, you right now, maybe you think, oh, I don't know how to do this with just these three, but implement this function first, okay? And get this to work, and then start thinking. And that will require a little bit of thinking outside the box. And you can discuss this in the forums. And you can also discuss it in Stack Overflow and other people. When other people have posted questions saying, oh, I got asked this question in an interview, I don't know how to solve it. You can actually say, well, this is one way to solve it. And you can actually provide the code too, right? Ideally, you shouldn't provide the code, right? Because they shouldn't look at code. You should basically say, this is the approach, and they should code it up on their own after understanding it. But this is how you do it, okay? And if you can't come up with a way, that's okay. Discuss in the forums, and either the classmates or me, I'm pretty sure one of your classmates will figure it out. If not, I will tell you, right? And hopefully you'll get this also working before next week, right? On Tuesday, we'll start talking about arrays and how you can use arrays. And arrays are basically just, strings are arrays of characters, but we'll look at other kinds of arrays too, right? Not just arrays of characters, arrays of numbers, arrays of doubles, floats. You can have arrays of anything. So we'll start looking at that on Thursday, Tuesday and Thursday next week. And after that, we're going to be doing more functions, and we're basically set, midterm after that. And then we'll start classes and objects. Okay, the real part of C++ comes after that, but that is not to do with the mechanics, right? This is the core part. That's why I say many students who say, well, I'll miss the first few classes in CS2A because that's all basic mechanics. I want to learn C++, which is objects. I'll come later on. Well, too bad. Okay, because this is really core. Getting to grips and becoming really solid with the basic mechanics. That is super duper important. Objects and classes and things like that you can pick up in your sleep, right? That's all very straightforward and simple. Compared to what you're doing now, what is to come later is super duper simple. You just need to believe that, right? Because objects and methods and functions, they're just, what we've been doing now, sugar-coated differently. Once you're comfortable with objects and methods and the mechanics, then we start looking at problems that involve you using these to solve those problems. There it gets really interesting, okay? And our goal is to get there as fast as possible so you can start solving interesting and juicy problems, okay? And actually show them out there, saying, hey, you got a problem, I can solve it using this program, okay? So, and that'll be really cool. How are we doing on time? All right, okay, or overtime again. Again, thank you all so much for sticking around. Anthony, sleepy and all. So all right. So but that's okay. I'm very grateful to all of you, especially to Hasanta, right, who took the screen, coded for all of us. Thank you so much, Hasanta, right? And also switching between your browser and things and looking up stuff. All part of programming, and it's better to do it in front of other people. So that when you have to do it on your own, you are basically set up for it, right? And because doing it in front of other people is always harder than doing it on your own, right? Many people think that oh, how am I going to do it on my own without other help, right? No, that's actually easy. Doing it in front of other people, that is the hard part, right? That is why students are so reluctant to speak up during classes, because they don't want to speak up, and even not just students. Okay, I've spoken even to colleagues and in other companies when I used to have teams of people. I always find that even people who have very incredibly clever and brilliant things to say during meetings, they will not say it, but they will say it in a one-on-one meeting with you. And I say, well, this is so cool. Why didn't you say it at the meeting when there were so many people had the same problem? They could have taken that solution, and the whole team could have advanced, right? And they say, no, I don't want to say it in front of everybody. So it's harder because, and I find I can't coax it out of them like that. The only way you can get comfortable with that is by just doing it repeatedly. and discovering that people out there are not like wild animals who are out to get you and devour you, right? They're all friends. But we don't know that. We don't know that because we never give us an opportunity to find out. We're always in our home, guarded. You never find out that everybody else is a friend. So the only way to find out is to find out. Go out there, find out that everybody is a friend. Give yourself an opportunity. So, but no matter how much I say that, people won't do that because it's always that reluctance is great, and I know that firsthand because I felt it too. Right when I was a student, when I was a newbie employee in a team, I was very reluctant to speak up and say, "Oh, what if I say that and they fire me?" Right? Or they think that we were not stupid to hire this guy who doesn't have basic knowledge, and all those concerns were overbearing in my head, and I was very reluctant. And only later on, some good managers, at SRI, I had some really good teacher kinds of managers, right? Fortunate. Many of you may not have an opportunity to have good managers like that, but fortunately, I have had an opportunity. And they pointed out that, you don't have to be afraid to speak up your thoughts, because if you are a dumb guy, you would not be here. The fact that we've hired you already means that we trust you. We've screened you. You are intelligent, right? Now, and it's not like we're doubtful and give him a chance and we'll find out, and if she says something stupid later on, we can fire her. No, because, hiring and firing, many people think it's easy for companies. So they can bring someone in. If it doesn't work out, jettison them. It's not like that, okay? I know from personal experience, if you hire someone, there's already a cost invested. Right? If you let them go the next day, the hiring manager is going to be gunned down. Right? They're going to be answering to the CEO and they're going to say, you just wasted like so much money and time hiring that person and so many. Nobody wants to go down that path. Okay. So once you're hired, you can be assured that a lot of people have given serious thought, and they know that even though you may say stupid things, you have a lot of potential that needs to be uncovered, and people will help you tease it out of you, because you've not been hired in order to keep all your knowledge inside of yourself. And so it is your teammates and your manager and your CEO's responsibility to get that value out of you. So they're going to be trying their best to tease it out of you. They're going to be putting you in situations where you can shine, because that's the only way the company can benefit. So when you're put in a situation in a company where you're given a hard task, it's not because they want you to fail. Because if you fail, the companies also fail. They did a stupid job of hiring you in the first place. So when you're given a hard task, it is the company telling you, well, we made a fantastic decision by hiring you. Now here's your chance, right? Because for us, here's our chance to get some value from you. So go ahead, be yourself, right? Be yourself. Do this for yourself. You're not doing it for me. You're not doing it for other people. You do it for yourself. Then you're true to yourself. When you're true to yourself, you only have success in front of you. Does that make sense? So was this class useful? Did we actually learn some useful concepts today? Because this is very important. Thank you all so much. So please complete that function, okay? Complete that function. Doesn't have to be correct, right? Try it, may not work, all right? And try, many iterations, like the discussions that happen on Reddit with, Shang when she's gone now, right? And the rest of us. Have this interesting and rich. Oh, there you are. You keep shifting places around in my Zoom panel, Youngman. So I think that you logged out and gone. Thank you all so much for sticking around. Hopefully I'll see you all again on Tuesday. Hey Musa, are you able to stay in one place now? Are you able to get to a place like Foothill or at home and use a computer during class?
Not currently.
Not currently, but I want you to code at least one class, okay?
Okay, I'll look forward to it next class, maybe.
Yeah, sure. Next class. It doesn't have to be next class, but make sure you're able to set up some time. At least one class you should code. Everybody should have an opportunity to code, and I know every single one who's coded. Okay, even from last quarter, 2 quarters ago, one of my students, if they show up in an email or something like that, and say, "I'll remember that." Okay, you've coded. So please do have an opportunity and take up these opportunities to code. All right. Thank you all for giving me this opportunity to interact and look at your beautiful faces again. I'll see you on Tuesday. Have a fantastic weekend, okay? And keep coding, keep coding.
Thank you, Professor.
Yeah, you have a
you,
question,
Professor.
Jaden?
No, I was just saying thank you, Professor.
Yeah.
Oh,
all right.
and
Bye.
I was able to complete ETOG's Limerick and draw cat. Only thing for Limerick is I'm trying to figure out how to get that decimal value at the end of 55.
All right, okay. All right, move on. Once you got the password, move on. And then you can come back and polish it all up. After you get quest 9, you can come back and polish it all up, okay? So if you've got the password, move on.
Oh no, it's not giving me the password until I get that decimal value.
Oh, okay, all right. So maybe you need to fix up a little things, a few little things. Yeah, you'll get there. I'm not, worried. Okay.
Okay,
The
thank you.
progress I'm seeing from all of you now, I'm not worried. Okay. I don't have any deep concerns from what I'm seeing. So please keep that up, and you'll all be very solidly successful.
Thank you.
All right. See you later. Bye.